Well, it's 7 o'clock now, so let's go ahead and call to order and look at.
All right, Karen Tozer.
Present.
Britta Mansfield.
I'm here.
Bob Woodward.
Present.
Brian Engstrom.
Present.
Absent are Deb Burkle and Chuck Watson. Alrighty.
And, you don't have any public comments, I assume?
No public comment.
Then we will jump into continued business with training on our resource inventory project. We kind of got fits and starts on this and trying to get organized on how best to carry it out. So I know you, Rachel, you had worked up.
Yes, so
Britta, you wanna launch off with what
Sure.
we decided the other day?
yeah, Rachel and I met a couple days ago. And we took what did we take? Where's the spreadsheet that we initially had?
Yes.
So Deb and I met months ago. And put together a much more intensive spreadsheet about all of the different criteria we want homes that are gonna be listed on this historic register. I know that's not the right terminology, but inventory, there we go. We'd like them to meet specific criteria. Rachel and I talked through it and decided that that is a great framework for potentially adding new buildings and handing over to a consultant. But for the purpose of this group and this portion of the project, it was too intense. So we pared it down to a simplified survey that basically we want to take the existing historic inventory and reconcile it with what's still standing in town. So you take the address that Bob assigned to us months ago, you're gonna go street by street, go check each address, go to that house, see, is it still existing? Like, does the house still stand at that address? Well, we know some of them have been moved, the one, we rolled on the one that was at George Fox and is now over on Second Street. So that one is one that's obviously been moved, you'll wanna note that here. But then just note any obvious changes based on the photo. I think most, if not all of the
Almost
list
all of them have a photograph.
have a photo, so just a very quick. Does that look like the same building, or is there a drastic difference there? And then is there anything else that you see on the property today that would make you think, yeah, we should do some more research about this house? Or I guess looking through the inventory, are there like big historical gaps there that we should fill? Does this property need more research? So super basic. The most important thing I'd say is just making sure, is the building actually still here? Yeah.
So we discussed this because the other inventory is perfect, I think, a perfect template for us to give whoever we hire and say, please use this to assess, and then we will select, or give us a brief inventory and we'll select which homes we want you to proceed with. But I think it's a little too in-depth for those of us who are not trained historians. So though I value all of your expertise, I know that it takes a bit more, because it would have involved a lot of research. It looks like Deb went ahead and actually did her properties that way already, which is great. And we'll use the research she gave us and we can use that for the grant when we do it. But I think that this is going to give us a better starting point. Yeah, so there's your training on the resource inventory now.
Okay,
It's
so
much simpler.
The column name if existing, what is?
So that is if the building has a name.
Oh, if there was
So if it's,
Would already be on the inventory.
yeah, so if it's like Jesse Edwards' house, City Hall, any of those, which we can actually probably copy all of that over from another field. We whipped this up really, we had a very quick 5-minute meeting, I think. Yeah,
Was
so,
a mission meeting all
yep, it was great. Well,
So you will send us this,
I will send you this,
okay?
and then you
And
guys.
so we will ignore the original one.
Yep,
Okay.
which you will still get all of them, so if you see the
Oh, I
tabs
see,
down here.
it'll have all of the foots.
So the
Okay, got it.
simplified commissioner assignments are
Right.
still on here, so you can see like Deborah already
Got it.
covers in there.
Wait, commissioner assignments doesn't have everybody.
That is interesting. Oh, it doesn't, no, it
Because
doesn't.
Bob sent that out.
Bob sent that
out. Bob
I
sent
don't know
it
that the whole
separately, I think.
list got transferred.
Yes, this is from the Oregon Historic Sites database, so if any of these are listed, you can grab this information too as well. This was Deb's instructions, it's really excellent. this is what it's like to have City Hall by our fire station. I hear it all day long. I still jump up and check every time. I'm totally a siren chaser. My dad was a reporter.
Okay, so you'll send
So
all of
we'll
this
send
to
all
us.
of this. You can
Can
dig
you
in.
send it tomorrow before the new email goes into effect? That scares me to death.
Yes, the new email. So yes, and I'll go over that in a little while. I'm gonna add that into my updates.
About this.
Yes.
So possible conflict of interest if, even though I'm not specifically doing anything with it,
Mhm.
I now work at the drive-in for
Mhm.
the drive-in. And I'm assisting, but technically I work at Francis Enterprises, which owns
Mhm.
both of the theaters. So I just wanna lay that out there since
Yeah.
I saw them trying it.
And Francis actually owns many of the buildings.
Many other
Yeah,
things, yes.
And other things.
So I just figured I would throw that out there
Voice that
since
out
the
there.
public meeting, that
Yep.
if we discuss anything about that, I will just not talk.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
So if we're making a decision that involves money or anything being given or done to those properties, then that's when you'll need to recuse.
Okay.
But if we're just talking about the historic value, go ahead.
I just figured I would throw that out there because I didn't know how many knew that, and it's
Yeah.
fine if people don't know that, but I just.
That's wise. And you sat through the entire council liability training last night, so you
Yeah.
learned a lot. Yeah.
It's, you know, it's probably best practice to do that. If we were really being splitting hairs, you're not getting any economic benefit from any decision we make,
Yeah,
just because you work for it, just like,
Mhm.
yeah. So, but it's, you know, if it comes up, we need to make a decision on Frank's property.
that, yeah,
Easy enough for you to set aside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
and I have no problem if it's okay staying in the same room and listening, but I won't, of course,
Mhm.
say anything, and.
Yep.
And I'm completely fine with that, too. I just,
Mhm.
I already figured I'd throw that out there at this meeting, because that's a new thing since the last meeting, and.
Since it's a public meeting, unless we moved into executive session to discuss whatever it is, you are totally welcome to be here.
Yeah,
Be
and
there.
I don't even think, I could be wrong, but I don't even think the historic preservation could move into an executive
Nope.
session. That's.
Okay, so
Yeah, but
I
it's
just-
you're here, yeah.
If you can be there, yeah, we don't get that one. Yeah. So that's all we have.
This one seems much more volunteer friendly.
Yes, it does.
That was our goal when we discussed.
And so this will be due back by the next commission meeting or before?
Yeah, that's for us to decide, you know, it feels like something we can have ready ahead of time so that it can be compiled and be presented at the next meeting. So that's our next meeting.
November.
Well, it's probably
Something
better
should
to do
have
it
written
before daylight savings times.
I think it's,
You got like 6 more weeks of sunshine.
Yeah, right?
I think our next meeting is November, end of November.
I mean, let's say,
Yeah, that's.
does like October 15th sound reasonable to have it completed? That, for what we're asking folks to do, that feels like a reasonable timeline.
And
Yeah.
as much as I would like work sharing platforms where you could all edit a document, that would create a serial meeting.
You know,
So you will all have your own version to work on and then send them all
That's
back to
why
me.
this one doesn't.
That's fine,
That's why.
yes.
Yep.
So by October 15th,
Okay,
everybody will complete their assigned addresses using this form, send it to you.
Yep.
And you can have it compiled for everybody and presented to them.
Yep. And I will bring it for this meeting.
okay.
You'll be good to go. All right.
Anything else folks feel we need to discuss about this? We're ready to move on to, updates from staff. Feels, I like this too, because even folks who aren't here tonight, so if you sent me this with no instruction, I could follow it.
I think I could too. The other one was just, you know, I was upside down and inside out.
This is straightforward, easy, self-explanatory, so
That's-
let's move on then to updates from staff.
All right, so first I have the ODOT updates. Now, ODOT is continuing the work that they're doing on the ADA ramp construction. One thing that they have shared publicly a few times lately is that they're project budget and their maintenance budget are very different things. So their maintenance budget is the one that's hurting really badly right now. Their project budget is pretty standard because the projects are aligned with their budget. So that is continuing. I have not heard anything else from our contact about the historic research. Besides the fact that they said they didn't think they could research the potential schoolhouse location on Illinois and Main Street because it was a little too far from the road. No, all right, that's fine. But there's quite a few other houses that they're looking at and buildings all over town. So, I mean, either way, they're going to give us a lot of good information. And one of the things they are going to look into for us is the feasibility of a historic downtown for Newburgh.
Oh, great.
Which, that's one of our main goals a few years out, and if they're gonna do all that research, then we can just pay the grantee to, well, whoever the contractor we hire with our grant to just write the proposal and get it through for us. So that's really great. That's ODOT. The next thing is the CLG grant, so that's the one that we started to go for last year, realized that we were not ready for and paused. So that's going to come up in February. I don't want it to, catch us unaware. So we're going to have to look at probably a draft in November at our November meeting. So I wanted to get feedback from you guys on what you would like it to be specifically. The problem we ran into last time, updating the inventory is great, but we can probably either have someone go through and clean up the inventory, which is kind of what we're gonna be doing here, or add more properties. And so I wanna ask, what are your goals? What would you like to see happen there?
Well, you and I talked last week, and I think the last grant we had talked about was kind of a dual purpose situation, and I think before we even set direction on the idea of historic district or any other work, I think the most useful thing for the city to have is an updated inventory. And so I think us doing this sort of reconciling, for lack of a better term, is super important. But I also think this is what Deb and I talked about, was setting criteria for adding more properties to that, kind of expanding our time period, focusing maybe on specific architectural themes, and broadening it just beyond just the downtown core. I think that would be so valuable for this community from so many different aspects, from anything from city planning to true historic research. From an academic perspective, I think that would be so worthwhile, and having a grant that is laser focused on just getting a contractor to do that work would be worth our time.
And when you say that work, adding,
So, so we're gonna do the updating work, and then we're gonna pay somebody hopefully to expand it.
that was where my mind went to, is that expanding the database would be the most helpful.
Any other thoughts?
I think that's reasonable.
I think it makes sense, actually.
I think that's probably the best use of funds, because doing this basic update of just checking on the properties, this is really easy stuff we can do. But doing the deep historic research like we looked at, that's going to take someone with a little more specialized knowledge. Is there a specific era we want to focus on? What kind of instructions do we want to give? Are we wanting to look at our mid-century moderns and things like that? Focus on those Rummer homes, or do we want to do something else?
I was gonna ask that, what's the best way to work it? And I don't know, maybe it's focusing on, you're focusing outside of First Street downtown.
Okay.
There's so many historic properties that are not along First Street. And I think we don't have as much data on them, and culturally, we don't think of them as historic. I think when folks say historic Newburgh, they envision First Street.
Yep.
And I'd like to see that broadened, and I think doing this inventory.
I think I agree with you that most people probably think this downtown Newburgh is First Street. And now living where I live and traveling from the area and taking different roads each time leaving the house or going home, I'm seeing all these houses and I'm like, those are definitely historical houses. Those are definitely older than 75 years. Those are.
And the ones that are outside of this, First Street core are more likely to be at risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not so visible.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're not so visible, they're not generally, often they're not in as good a shape.
Yeah.
And so the market isn't strong enough right now that there's a lot of tear downs, but even with that, like,
Mhm.
you know, my next door neighbor tore down 1917 house.
Yep.
And it was a shame, and then he tore down, I don't know if it was, somebody tore down the house next,
Oh, seriously?
yeah.
Whoa. Yeah,
So-
I think using the other framework, the initial survey as kind of a base for expansion is a good idea. And I mean, I agree with what everybody said, expanding beyond downtown. And then I think it was broadening our time period was the biggest thing, and I think that's where we came up with the idea of mid-century. I mean, mid-century modern is a specific architectural style, but it's also kind of broad. So I say almost like a time period and anything that is significant to that time period, I think a professional historian or consultant is gonna have better criteria than we are necessarily for that, because we don't need just standard boring home from 1962,
No,
but a really distinctive home that has mid-century styling, like specific, or even like ranch style homes are super
Mhm.
popular. We have a ton of those that are overlooked. So anything that's like truly unique and speaks to a time period
Mhm.
would be really
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Soon, that's, those are the new ones, that's the.
So how do we capture that in a request for proposal?
So here's some thoughts I have. We can look for neighborhoods with low density of houses that have been selected and ask them to search those neighborhoods. We can ask them to, we could ask them to start in those neighborhoods. If they say that they will take their strokes analysis of what homes should be looked at more. And then we can select our top few and have them do a second phase where they do a deeper research on those buildings to try and get them added to our resources inventory. So, and then those are ones that we can help them through the process of becoming recognized by the state and national levels if they want to. But they would, yeah, so I think we'd write a two-step process. We'd identify the neighborhoods, which we can do. Identify the neighborhoods that are lacking, ask them to do a surface level inventory of those neighborhoods and identify structures that might be worth looking at more closely. Then we would evaluate which ones they give us and then choose which ones we'd like them to focus on for the second phase. Does that sound reasonable?
It does. Do you think there's enough money in the grant to cover that?
We'll have to look.
I just worry about diluting ourselves too much.
Yeah. It may be that we have to pick two neighborhoods and
Yeah.
keep it pretty small.
Yeah,
Because we can get up to about $15,000.
Okay.
Which is a chunk, but it's not a lot, you know, it's a good amount, and we have an excellent grant writer that I'll be making help me on this, because he works for me, so, no, thank you.
Right side of your work doesn't. close it, so you can push it.
Yeah, fun, yeah, I was having issues before, so,
But there are.
all right, great, thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you, Jason. Our tech links didn't want to work this afternoon, so. So I think we could come up with it if we keep it narrow enough in scope. So otherwise, we break it into two sections again and we have them just do surface level and then the next round do it more in depth.
the architect, the mid-century architect we talked about,
Rummer, yeah.
Robert, yeah. Am I correct that most of his houses are kind of over
Yeah,
there?
so the development he built is around Laurel, Holly, and it's off of Villa. So I live right there, so I know the neighborhood
Did
well.
this expand up into the closer to the high school on the other side of Hayward?
I think a
And
little bit, there's
There's Willow and then
Yeah.
a couple, that neighborhood is really cool.
really rich
Yeah.
with them, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other neighborhood is like over, kind of where we just.
Yeah.
That region doesn't have as many that are unique, but but there's some that speak to a time period.
And they definitely be different from the ones that are on the inventory right now.
Absolutely.
So while there are many, many like Victorian and Craftsman homes in our town that are not on the inventory, it wouldn't be a change from what's already there.
Yeah.
So while I'd love to see them all added, it's not as much value. Now, any person could approach us and say, hey, I have a historic structure in town, I would like it to be listed. We can always put that call out too. Could be a separate thing.
Yeah,
So we could even look at that in the meantime, or after the grant even, and just say, is anyone else interested in being added to a registry?
and that would be good, because that would be a way to build awareness. And folks aren't committing, everybody's gun shy, they don't want to have restrictions on what they can and can't do. But just getting information being listed on inventory. Do.
Especially if we're just making a list. If
Yeah.
you have a historic home that
Yeah.
you feel should be,
Yeah, we're not talking about designating them as a historic landmark, because do you have an old house you'd like to get more information?
Yeah. Yep, and it doesn't mean they'll be designated, it means they're saying, hey, I would be interested.
Yes.
Because in the state of Oregon, a house cannot be designated without the owner's permission.
Yeah.
So, it's a good thing, but also we want to make sure we're working with people who want to do this. If we start knocking on doors and we're like, I am not interested, leave me alone, then we're wasting a lot of time.
And this would tie in with our goal of trying to build awareness about historic preservation and historic information.
Okay.
So what would be the best way to market
To
that?
launch call. So we have our public information officer can put together a little campaign for us. That's not a hard thing to ask for. It really wouldn't cost anything, much of anything at least. So that would be really simple to start putting it out on different socials, putting out posters, information about that. And then a lot of it would be you guys just talking to people would be really
I was just
important
gonna
too.
say, this would be a good one. Okay, yeah, they could put out a general, if we could get one or two people who raise their hand and say yes.
Yep.
And then,
Then do a
and
focus.
then highlight them, like, hey, they're gonna learn about their house, and they don't have to have any restrictions. So if you know somebody who's got a house that, mine's 1985. so
Yeah,
it's really,
not right there yet.
My neighbor up front, that house is be a possibility.
Yeah, there's a few. So I think talking to people, if this is a great way, if we started with something like this, then when we go to do the awards program we've talked about doing someday, it's gonna be easier to get people
Yeah.
involved with that. So that's gonna drive buzz. I like that idea.
But, and it also, like I said, it starts to build awareness, and it gets us talking about historic preservation without any sticks. And so the first conversation we have with the community
It's a carrot.
isn't a scary conversation.
Exactly. Okay, so I can start pulling something together before our next meeting and just kind of bring some ideas to you guys and see what we can do. What kind of timeline are you thinking for that?
I guess feels more like dependent on their workload,
Mm-hmm.
Having that information, time for us to help guide you and whoever putting together an RFP.
Yeah, so, and I'm gonna have to start on the RFP pretty soon. One thing we might think about is we wouldn't start work on the project till July of next year. If we get the grant, well, which we will if we apply. July of next year is when we'd actually start work. So we actually have time between applying for the grant and gathering some of this information.
It could be a fun thing to launch kind of next July. I was thinking like the city's booth that they had at the fashion festival. Would be an interesting place to like let people know that this is happening. So launching it alongside the
Yeah.
inventory expansion project could be kind of neat.
That could be really neat. Yeah, you guys can come sit there with me.
Totally
Be
worth it.
fun. Oh,
Yeah, because he struggled to, I think, to get interviews for his project.
Yep.
And I don't know if they'll do it again next year, if they did, if there could be something more of a hook for folks.
Yeah, there's different ways to do research. Yeah, the George Fox booth struggled,
He said he got lots of people to tell him great stories.
but they didn't want
But
to be.
nobody could sign a waiver and have.
Yeah. Well, and he wanted me to tell him stories. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what do you want to know? Because I could tell you all sorts of stories. Are they
Yeah.
my stories or are they just not things I know? Like, what do you want? But
Yeah, it sounded like the real hurdle was folks didn't want to sign a waiver.
Mhm.
At the, so.
It's a hard one. I've tried to
Yeah.
do it before too. And
Yeah.
it's hard at festivals because people are distracted.
Yeah.
They've got other things going. You have to have it. It doesn't work in that environment, I discovered.
And there's, I think there's just a broad mistrust of giving out your information to anybody.
Hear that? All right, so what I'm hearing from you is you're thinking next July, we could launch send us your information, your thoughts. So that means it may not be part of the grant. Unless we want to put it off even further, but we don't probably want to do that.
In other words, inviting people, I don't kind of see them as one
As
of
the
the
two separate projects.
Yeah, I have your two separate projects. Once you get, assuming you get people who say, I'd like to have more information.
Yeah.
That's kind of
So
the second
that's-
step.
That's really feasible. My team is creating our yearly plan and then over the next couple of months, we can just add that in for July and just have. a
Because it
fun
can be an
meeting.
ongoing thing,
Yeah.
like it also doesn't matter, so we're obviously, when it works for staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can launch it and then have the application up and running and then every once in a while tell people, hey, if you're interested, let us know and just keep poking at it.
Yeah.
I think that's a good starting point.
But I think tying it to the Old Fashioned Festival makes a whole lot of
Mhm,
sense. It's sort of, it's the community thing. It's the history.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's a really quick 2-question survey. You have a historic home and you want us to look into it, scan here, give us your name and address. That's all we need,
You have an old house.
One
you
month.
wanna move back.
Yep. All right, I think that'd be really cool. Well, I think that gives me enough of a scope to start thinking about the RFP and all the stuff for the grant application and how we can narrow it down significantly. Those were the 2 things I had written down. There are a couple other things I wanted to share with you guys. One is the email change that you saw, the email
oh God, please.
so what's going on is they're moving all of our emails to like an internet-based email server that is awesome in lots of different ways. So starting Thursday, you will have to access your emails this different way. So
Nice.
you need to go look at the instruction email I sent you. Here's the great thing about this. If you get locked out, you can reset your own password. You don't have to come beg me for that or get help. This is gonna be a good thing. This. So, yeah, so we.
So we still have access to emails for their account currently? Oh,
Yep,
okay,
anything,
okay.
it's just moving to the. Server, basically. It's just information. It's probably. I'm just checking to see if anything else here now.
I was gonna say, less of an issue with historic preservation.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi is having issues. Because we don't need to look at this anymore. That's something we're in the middle of revamping our entire network here, so if you're seeing issues, this is why we're. This is so bizarre. Okay, with the new.
It says your log off is.
Yeah, that's log off from our online system, so that should be fine. Zoom meeting should not be doing anything.
Yeah.
That is really bizarre. Okay, well, guys, every time it makes that noise, we're gonna go and unmute.
Is there a way to get push notifications?
So, oh my goodness. I'm like, what is going on here? This is so bizarre. Okay. Well, yeah, something is going on. Original sound for musicians? No. What in the world? I bet Zoom's doing an update right now. Or someone. Fun. So you were asking about cell phones. Is there a way to?
No.
With the email, is there any way to get push notification to either our, because
Mhm.
we've all struggled, I struggled with it too, checking my email regularly.
I forget, and all of a
Yes.
sudden I think, oh, maybe I should see if there's anything.
And so we've kind of drifted on, I feel like now we're in our items for commission from
Yeah.
commissioners.
Mhm.
And this is my one, is I wanted to talk about communication.
Mhm.
This, I'm getting better, but I'm still struggling with checking regularly and stuff falls through the cracks because I haven't checked it.
Yeah.
And we've not found a way to get notifications.
Mhm.
And maybe this is a citywide security thing, but like I use Apple's email thing and I log in there to my various email accounts. So I
Yeah.
can see all of them, whether they're Yahoo, MSN or Gmail or whatever, we use MSN. But you get my drift, is you can see all 7 email accounts
Yeah.
in one place. This is my only email account, I can't see
Yeah.
there.
So I,
Yeah,
you know,
constantly you're locked out.
I understand the security issue and, you know, if I connect my phone, then it becomes a discoverable item. You know, all that, I'm just wondering, is there a way that it could just, hey, check your email?
yeah, so I've been trying to send, at least like when I send something out, I usually will send it to both. I'll send it to your city email and then often send a check your city email to your, personal, but that is a manual process right now.
Yeah.
I will talk to our IT team. Yes, they have a restriction, so you can't do it through like iPhones.
Yeah.
And it is a security thing,
That makes sense.
but I've also told them this is not working, so we need to find something
And
better.
is there a secure other way that they can be
And I'd
accessed?
say that maybe, setting your own push notifications just on your calendar to remind you once a week to check it
That's
might
what
help.
That's what I'm.
Good idea.
And it might not exist, if there's any way they can set
Yeah.
that so that it just pings a phone,
Just-
phone number.
Yeah, yeah,
and
or
an
something.
email that says,
Check
hey,
your,
you have a new message. It
Mhm.
doesn't
I will
have
ask
to-
him about that.
It doesn't have to share details, information, broach that security, but just, if there's any way that you could ever say.
Yeah.
You have a new message.
Yeah, I will ask them about that, see if there's anything we can figure out, because I think that would be really valuable to a lot of our commissions. It's not just you guys, this is an across the board problem, even for counselors. Because it's hard, even though they have city devices, so
How does
it
that
can be
work on a
challenging.
city device, or is it still just?
On city devices, they have, no, it's hooked up like
It's
normal, yeah.
Interesting.
So if city devices are fine, it's just non-city devices, so it's just challenging.
And it doesn't make sense to issue the historic preservation. Commission.
Unfortunately.
And I really want.
No,
I don't want it.
there's,
It's not-
yeah, planning commission has iPads, but nobody else does because they are just doing so many things. Their packets are so large, it makes sense too, but the rest do not, so. At this point, so,
Like I said, it's a wish listing, and you never know what.
yep. I'll write it down, I'll have a chat with them, see if there's anything, it would probably be low on their list right now because they are doing a complete revamp of everything.
Understood.
Including the council chambers is started this morning, they're redoing all the AV in there, yeah.
That'd be
It's
good,
time,
though.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was about 20 years old, so it was time. It's been fun. December, terms end, yours is ending in December, I think Chuck is ending in December. I have to go look at the other one, I think it might be Deb. I think that might be our 3 that are up this December, or it might just be one. Either way, our new system for applications and board management is really neat, and I will send very soon a, hey, your term is expiring, would you like to renew alert to everyone? When you get that, if you get that, I don't think you 3 are, but if you get that and want to reapply, all you have to do is say, yes, reapply.
3 or 4 year terms?
They are 3-year for you guys and 1 year for Brian, so.
I don't think Karen's is gonna go up because she just
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
following another year.
completing one
And
year.
yours, I'm trying to remember, they might actually be 4-year, no, I think they're.
No, I
4-year
think it
terms.
was
I think
three.
there's three.
Yeah, I'll go verify. We had to shift some because the cycles got off, and so some terms are kind of funny. But when you get that notification, it's really easy. You'll just click, reapply or renew, and it will bring up your old application if you have one on file, and you just edit any details.
Oh, cool.
So if I've created a profile for you, anything that's in there, you just edit. Since you guys haven't applied through it before, you might have to fill out more this time, but in the future, it'll be even easier. So it's a really cool system. I'm hoping that makes it a lot easier for me to get people to renew. And then for new people who want to apply, it is so easy now on the city website to go look at all of our vacancies at any time.
So
You can see all of our vacancies actively, you can look through what the committees do when they meet, and then apply at any point. And it's streamlined a lot of my workload, so we're loving this. So I want to let you know that's coming up. Please encourage people to apply. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, all right. The next thing I had too was that the council rules, I mentioned to you guys that the council rules and guidelines are changing, and this time they will include a change to the committee rules. Now, I've rewritten it. It is with our legal team right now for review. Council liked it. Basically, there's not many changes for you guys. A lot of it's just simplifying what we had because the council rule book we had before was really long, and it just been added to over the years, so we need to kind of streamline again. So it's not going to change a lot of things, but once that's out, I'll send that to all of you so you can be aware of any new processes and policies that are set in stone now. But that should help out, but that's all I have, so.
With those new rules,
Mhm.
is there an attendance policy for conditions?
Yes.
Okay,
It's more than 2 absences in a year.
Okay.
Or more, yeah, 2 in a year, or 75% of meetings. So since we only meet 4 times in a year, 1 absence technically is, or 2 is more than 75. More than 25% is.
and you didn't hear anything from Chuck ahead of time?
I did not hear. So technically, if you're not telling us ahead of time, not coming up with something, it's not excused. And if people are disagreeing whether or not it's excused, then the commission would vote on it. The ultimate authority on that would be council. So if we were having a problem with someone not showing up, and they're saying, well, all my absences are excused and we didn't agree, we'd just bring it to council and have them make a decision on that person. But the mayor has the right to remove people from boards. So.
My feeling at this point, I don't feel like it's necessary to remove Chuck.
Mhm.
But I would like to, I'll send him an email. If you could send him just a Chuck City email.
Mhm.
Just make sure he's still available, any supports he needs. If him zooming in is more helpful, do that. Just make sure he knows he's got support for whatever he needs.
100%.
But if it's not working out.
Yeah.
Let's know.
100%, we can get that going. I'll send him an email too. And if we're not hearing from him after a while, we can give him a call. And when you guys see him in public, make sure to, say we miss him too. That helps. Yeah, because we lost Joyce last year for health issues and never heard from her again. So that was, we want to make sure that we are in touch with people. So that's all I have for you guys.
Any other items from commissioners? With that, I will adjourn this meeting.
Great.